felony offender. Offenses: aggravated oral sexual battery and forcible rape. Sentenced to a total of 40 years. Parole date: August 1st, 2021. Good time: July 17, 2031. Full term: July 11th, 2038. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabello.
Thank you very much. Mr. Suit, my name is Tony Marabella. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Your case was assigned to me, so I'll begin this interview process. Mr. Suit, how old are you, sir?
72.
Okay. And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
Since 2000. So 23 years.
2000, so 21, 22 years?
22 years.
Tell me, what programs have you taken while you've been in prison that you believe have been most helpful to you?
Most helpful to me has been while I was here at Angola in the early stages was cage your rage, anger management, because I had a hard problem, controlling myself with the anger, and other programs that helped me was the BETG, which is Behavioral Education Therapy Group of Sex Offenders. When I learned the risk factors and faced those risk factors, I realized the problems that I had. This just didn't happen because of one reason. It happened because of multiple reasons.
Talk to me about the problems that you learned that you've had.
The problems I had was a compulsive addiction, and
Compulsive addiction to what?
to drugs and alcohol. But through the help of the mental health department at Rayburn, we worked through that, and it's curtailed. I have no desire.
No desire for what?
No desire for alcohol or drugs.
And how did you accomplish that?
By prayer, mainly. I'm a senior in the Bible college here. And through a lot of prayer and a lot of work and facilitating other groups, I worked through that, and I put that in my past where I don't even think about it anymore.
Tell me how you intend on, assuming that you get out, how do you intend on making sure you don't go back to alcohol and drugs?
I have, believe it or not, I have a wonderful brother who will hold me accountable. He's a retired law enforcement officer, and I have other support. Support is the main thing. You can get really involved with a negative support group, but thank the Lord that I have a very positive support group.
What kind of drugs and alcohol were you using?
I was really fond of tequila, and I was very fond of cocaine.
And how often were you using drugs and alcohol?
Maybe once or twice a month. Sometimes more, depending on the time I had off from work.
Mr. Suit, tell me what you have thought about what you've done to your daughter. I haven't heard a word about your crime. You're talking about drug addiction. I mean, what you did to that young woman is horrible. You tell me what you've thought about that and how I should be in a position to release you today or vote to release
There-
you. Today.
there's a day that goes by where I don't regret and pray and remember the, like you say, the atrocity of what I did. That uh, to put it into words is really hard for me to do. I I have more regret in my heart for that I can really express to you. Uh, I it wasn't an intended thing. It was a thing that just uh,
What do you mean it wasn't intended? I mean, this went on for
it
years.
wasn't something that I planned to do. It wasn't something that, oh, I'm going to do this to my daughter. No, there's
But it
things
went
that
on for years.
this thing that happened to me in my youth is also a residual of what happened there. I was molested at 3 years old, and that continued up until I was 7 or 8 years old, and by uh, older peers and by friends of family. You know, they took advantage of me, and it just all stemmed together. You know, the addictions, the anger, the pain that I had, and the more I had to rely on my daughter for my help, you know, because I was mentally incapacitated at the time. Uh,
What effect do you think this has had on your daughter all of this time?
I think that she went through a lot of pain. Uh, I mean, I was the adult. I'm responsible. She wasn't responsible. And I'm still responsible.
You know, it bothers me a little bit when I read your report. Now, I know it's been 3-4 years ago, but in explaining what happened, you described what happened between you and your 9-year-old daughter, and then when she was 11, as a sexual affair. How
No,
can you say that?
that shows a word that I chose to show the delusion that was in my mind at the time that it was happening. It was it wasn't reality. I know that, but I didn't know how else to explain it. It was a delusion that I felt that wasn't true.
What would you say to me today when I get ready to vote that would make me feel comfortable that something like this isn't going to happen again?
It'll never happen again. I'll never be in that frame of mind again. That person is gone. That person doesn't even exist anymore. The day that I accepted and received Christ as my Savior, and I left all that at the cross with Him, I'm not dragging that back. I live my life for Him. and my daughter, and a future that could be built on.
What would your plan be? Where are you going to live if you get out of prison?
Immediately would be in Bogalusa at some friends of mine's house until I can get on my feet and get a place of my own.
Well, there's nothing you can do about what I'm about to tell you, but you do have opposition from law enforcement. Victim opposition is obviously there. Is there anything that you would say to your daughter today if she were listening to you?
Well, yes, I'm very, very, very sorry for what happened. And I regret it every day. If there was a way that I could change it, I would. And as far as I know, in the communication that she has no opposition for my release. Matter of fact, I was informed that she wants me to be released.
All right. Thank you. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bonnie Jackson.
Mr. Suit, you say if you could take it back, you would. You say you recognize the harm done to her. I'm not sure that you really do, but don't you think it would be harmful to her for you to be released?
Harmful to her?
Mentally, psychologically, emotionally, in light of what you've done to her?
No, because that person doesn't exist anymore.
For her, he does. Where did you get the idea that she was in favor of your being released?
Communication with family members.
Whose family? What family members told you that she was in favor of your getting out? And what was their relationship with her?
Uncle. I mean,
Your stepson was also a victim. He suffered at your hands from regular beatings. He
No,
doesn't want you out.
my
Thank
step,
you. Go ahead, yeah.
my stepson.
Mhm.
I don't have a stepson.
Do you have a son?
I have a son, yes,
Okay,
John
what-
David Suit.
Yeah, well, he's the one. He's the one who said that he was, brutalized, beaten regularly.
Regularly, he was only with me for a week while
Okay.
his mother was doing other things.
Okay.
She,
She was in rehab. And she had to leave rehab to come and rescue him because she had beaten him so badly. Don't remember that?
no,
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Suit. That's all I have.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Stoops, anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
all I can say is that the person that you're reading about and the person that I am today is not the same. I've gone through a lot of changes. I've gone through a lot of programs with a lot of help from the professionals available here and at Rayburn. And with their help and with God's help, I've changed. I'm not that person anymore. My mind doesn't even function the same way that it did before. Before, I couldn't even answer your questions. I was very, very introverted. I'm not that way anymore. I'm open. I try to answer the best that I can. I'm kind of taken aback by some of the things, but I'm trying to be as open and honest as I can.
Okay.
If there's anything else you want to ask me, I'm free and willing to answer anything that you have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stoops. At this time, the board will be voting. We're going to be starting with Mr. Tony Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Suit, I want to commend you for having accomplished some things while you've been in prison. I mean, you've done a lot of programs. You've taken a lot of courses. You've done a lot of positive things. I just get the impression that you don't understand the significance of what you did to your daughter. You answered my questions and you talked about you. Very little was said about your daughter. And it certainly was said like, well, when that happened, you committed a horrible crime against this young woman. It has ruined her life. I don't think you seem to understand that. I don't know where you got the idea that she wants you out. That's not the impression I have. Your stepdaughter doesn't want you out. Your son said he wouldn't mind you being out, only so you could see how well he's done without you. Sometimes the crime and the horror that someone perpetrates on someone that lasts so long outweighs the good that a person has done while he's been in prison. I don't think that I can vote in good conscience to let you out based upon all of the things that I have read in this report and all the things that you've said today. So my vote today would be to deny your parole.
Okay, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Suit, you have taken a lot of programs, but I don't know if the programs have really done what they were designed to do. When you talked about, well, I learned about my addictive behavior, you directed that towards alcohol and drugs. You did not direct it towards your behavior towards your daughter. Because I read somewhere back when this happened and you were talking to someone that you had this attraction to your daughter. And I don't think anything has been done to really help you understand. There aren't words to describe how awful this was. And she suffered her whole life because of this. So because of the seriousness of the crime, the extreme harm to the victim, her adamant opposition from her, not only her, but your stepdaughter and your son, and law enforcement opposition across the board, Mr. Suit, my vote today is to deny.
At this time, Mr. Stoops, you have 2 votes to deny, and I also want to vote to deny because of a strong law enforcement opposition and victims opposition. to this case. Thank you very much.
He puts on his little pouty face, little roach. So pathetic. I love it. I love when Miss Jackson came in there. I was like hoping, and she just brought the hammer down. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Another mic drop. Yeah, I'm taking notes, and they hit on a lot of the points that I bring up so often and wrote down. The classic things that we hear all the time. I'm sorry that it happened. I regret it every day. If I could take it back, I would. It's like, are you kidding me? He makes up this story. Oh, I heard she wants me out. Really? You think you're going to just pull a quick one like that? Oh, yeah, she really wants you out. Who did you hear that from? An uncle? It is great. He doesn't have one supporter show up. The board just rips him a new one, and he sits there trying to put this little manipulation on, like, poor old me. I'm just this poor old guy. He really goes into, there was no point where he could show empathy, where he was able to. He went straight in, like the board said. As soon as it went into the questions about her, what he did to his daughter, he starts talking about when he was 3 years old. It's not the first time we've seen that. He actually put in a report when applying a few years ago that he was in a relationship with her. And he says, oh, that was that. I just wrote that down because that was what I had been thinking at the time. And I got to tell you, he just made that up. It is not, I don't believe that for a second. I believe he's still, that he believed that at the time he filed for his application. It's very clear in the application what you're supposed to write. He didn't write, I thought I was, that means even up until recently, he thought that. And you heard it in the answers today. We hear this, and it's like, it's just so bizarre. He said, I was the adult. I'm responsible. She wasn't responsible. And it's like, what? Of course she's not responsible. Why would you even say that unless you think she is? And they don't realize that it comes out in the way that they say these things. It comes out the truth of how they think. Even in his hearings, I have to rely on my daughter for help. What is it? What? He actually wrote, I had a sexual affair with my 9-year-old. An affair. I'm glad his son was able to leave a statement. And he's pretending like, I have no idea what happened. I only had him for 1 week. Like, okay, yeah. Right, okay, buddy. Now, Richard says that the records show that he's no longer in prison, but he couldn't find it, and I couldn't find anything either. I don't know for certain, but it might mean that he is no longer on this earth because he didn't get paroled. So that's possible. It's possible we just don't ever have to worry about this roach hurting anyone again. He got a 40-year sentence. He's 72 years old. His full term date's 2038. I think that this is one of those situations where we can say we are safe. And I am glad how the board handled this. And, it's so many times we do see a lot of the worst of the worst. They all have similar stories. And he just was not able to connect to how evil he is. And it's part of why we do this. We got to see that roaches, that monsters, that evil does exist. With that, I'll let you go.